Hey, this is Renee from the Craft Table. Welcome to week 2 of this summer's embroidery stitch along. This week we will be going over a variety of straight stitches, including the very basic straight stitch, seed stitches, the running stitch, and the back stitch. Since this is the first week we are actually stitching, I want to refresh your memory that this is the fabric that I'll be using during the stitch along. It's the Allison Glass Color Wheel Art Theory. On this long panel, I have used a basting stitch to secure the lining fabric to the top of my design fabric. I've got my hoop, clips to hold the excess fabric, threads, pearl cotton 8-weight, scissors, and needles. Before we get stitching, you need to secure the fabric in your embroidery hoop, unscrew the screw on the embroidery hoop, placing the one without a screw underneath the area you want to stitch, and then placing the top part with the screw and tightening it around the fabric so that your fabric is taut and secure but not stretched out of shape. You want to cut the fabric you want to cut the thread that you're using in a manageable length. I try and stick to like 18 inches. If you get much longer than that, it's just going to tangle up and become a mess. Thread your needle. I use a size 5 needle, and then I secure my knot using a quilter's knot, where you just loop it around twice around the needle, and then you pull it through to secure your quilter's knot. If you're working on a long piece of fabric like I am, I recommend using wonder clips or something similar to just clip the fabric out of the way while you're stitching. So we're going to begin with the seed stitch. Bring your thread up from the back, and you're basically just going to take a short straight stitch in any direction you want to, and continue doing that in a random fashion in the area that you want to stitch. A lot of times seed stitches are stitched in pairs, sort of going in a different, angling at a different angle every 2 stitches, but that's not necessary. That's just how I learned it. But what I'm doing here is just filling in this purple area with random short straight stitches. It's a good filler stitch, and you can make it as dense as you like. Your stitches can be short, long, somewhere in between. It's entirely up to you, but it is a very good stitch to fill in an area, especially if you want a little bit of dimension, but not necessarily covering up the background completely. You can see here that the purple behind the stitch still shows through. So here's my area stitched with seed stitches. When I'm done stitching, I run my needle, I turn over to the back of my fabric, and I take my needle and I run it under a few stitches close to where I went to the back. And I will do that twice. And then on the third time, before I pull it all the way through, you'll see here, I leave a little bit of a loop and then take my needle through, and that gives it a little knot, and then I cut my thread. So here I'm going to do a really basic straight stitch where I'm just going from one end to the next, and this is the simplest stitch you can do. You come up at point A and you go down at point B. You just make a stitch from one end of the area you want to stitch to the other. Here I'm not covering the whole shape. I'm just doing a few random straight stitches spaced out a little bit on that little bit in that area, that purple area. And that's a basic straight stitch. Now I'm doing a running stitch here, and a running stitch is a series of straight stitches with a little bit of space in between. And I don't do a lot of running stitches in hand embroidery. That's something that I will do if I'm doing the Japanese form of embroidery called sashiko. But I wanted to demonstrate that here because it's another option. And I chose to just do it in the center of this wide burgundy band, but I could have done it along either edge. And again, it just adds a little bit of dimension to what you're stitching. So the back stitch is what I'm going to demonstrate next. And I wouldn't necessarily consider that a straight stitch, but since this stitch along, I'm trying to combine several stitches in a week in order to cover more stitches. So this is the back stitch, and you're going to start one stitch ahead of where you want your stitch to go, and then you go back to the beginning, and that is why it's called the back stitch. And then for each stitch after that, you bring your needle up one stitch length, pull the thread to the top, and then you're going to go down right where the previous stitch ended, and you're going to put your needle down in that hole. So again, you're going back. So you're bringing your needle up one stitch length ahead, and then when you come back down, you're going to go down to where the previous stitch ended. And it's just a nice series of stitches. It's good for outline stitches, going around the edge, or making a border. The back stitch is a very versatile stitch. It's good for if you want to do any lettering, if you want to do words on your embroidery, the back stitch is a really good stitch for that. Now here I'm going to jump over that purple, the little round purple circle, and just continue on to the burgundy, finishing up the back stitch. So you can see we did 4 stitches. We did the running stitch, seed stitch, the straight stitch, and the back stitch.